for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us today. Reminiscing up here at the John Watson Chevrolet of all the those late night, you go park with a young lady in that old Camaro. Come on. The 68 Camaro over here in the showroom, beautiful. Joining us on the program right now, by the way, our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. Let's kick things off here with Jon Wilner, who's going to walk us through a little bit of the college football landscape that is the transfer portal, that is the new college football playoff, all of the drama that happened over the weekend. Let's jump right in here on The Cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is What Made the Cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And, of course, The Cut brought to you by the Doug Smith family of dealerships in American Fork, Spanish Fork, and, of course, now in Linden. Joining us on the program right now, he's Jon Wilner, AP voter, college football guru. John, thanks for being with us on the program, man.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start off first. How did your first round of the 12-team college football playoff go? It was drama-filled from the very first time that we saw those very first rankings in the first weeks of the college football playoffs, and then it was not short of any drama, of course, this weekend. Did they get it right with the 12 that they picked, do you think?
You know, you can quibble with some of the stuff. Generally, I think they got it right. They were lucky the way it broke, which was just one spot was really up for grabs on the last weekend. That 12th, the last at-large spot between Alabama and SMU, was really the only thing. It could have been much different, and they had 3 or 4 teams for 2 or 3 spots. So they got fortunate in that regard. You know, you could quibble with the seedings, which teams were where, but generally I think it's pretty good. The issues are more kind of the bigger picture of this whole playoff. One is having to release the rankings every Tuesday through November kind of boxes the committee in and prevents them from doing things that would probably make it a better bracket, but they can't do it because of what they've already done. They should just wait and do one at the very end, but ESPN would probably, not like that, and we all know who runs the sport. The other thing is that they need to figure out a way to reward the conference champs. Oregon, undefeated Big Ten champs, number 1 seed, they get to play either Tennessee or Ohio State on a neutral field. Oregon should have, 1, an easier matchup with the seeds, and 2, should be able to play at home. They got to figure out a way to get the higher seeds home games. I think that's a big issue because the home game is really what's so cool about this whole thing, right? We're going to have hopefully a snow game in South Bend or Columbus. If you're the number 1 seed, you should get the benefits of playing at home.
The committee also, as far as the Big 12 goes, and obviously we focus a lot on the Big 12 with BYU and Utah, the Big 12 didn't seem to have the respect of the committee, and I understand why. The best team had 2 losses. But a team like BYU, and you even mentioned it, feels like they didn't get the benefit of that they should have had. I mean, you look at their resume compared to Miami, and you could argue BYU's is better, but BYU's, 5-6 spots lower? Why do you think that is, and do you think that BYU wasn't treated fairly by the committee?
I do, and I've written it and put it on social media a ton. I think BYU got hosed, and I think the Big 12 generally was undervalued. Yes, the champion had 2 losses, but the champion of the ACC has 3 losses. Right? Yeah. Clemson's got 3 losses. BYU is 7 spots behind SMU, even though they beat them head-to-head, and they have the same number of losses. And BYU's schedule is better, and BYU's other metrics are better. So I do think that the Big 12 from the get-go was undervalued by the committee. And I think it's something that the conference has got to think long and hard about and say to themselves, you know what, this could happen again. What changes can we make to our football structure, the competition calendar, the way they schedule? Can they do anything that will set them up for more success next year in terms of getting at-large bids?
John, one of the things that we've been watching with the breakdown of I think that we assumed that the 12-team playoff it's going to fix a lot of the shortcomings of the 14 playoff, but I think all it did was basically you're creating more spaces for more teams to quibble over. A team like Boise State and a team like Arizona State, frankly, who are your 3 and 4 seeds, where do they land in all this? I mean, we've seen Arizona State up close and personal, and I personally believe like they're on that upward trajectory where I think a lot of teams, even BYU, was kind of sort of plateaued out a little bit toward the end of the season. But where do you think teams like Boise State and Arizona State in this particular bracket really stand compared to these other teams?
Well, I think Boise is ASU. They could win a game. I wouldn't be that surprised if they beat Texas. Wait, who are they playing? Are they playing Texas? The Texas
whoever the winner is of that
winner, right? Yeah,
right. Mm-hmm.
They could win. I don't see them winning. Getting past semis. And Boise, they got a hard game against. I guess it'd be Penn State. The thing is, the playoff was intended to create greater access, not only across conferences but across the country, and we are seeing that. There are 3 teams west of the Rockies that are in this thing, whereas over the previous 10 years there have been 3. Washington got in twice and Oregon got in once, and that was it. So this one year has created as much access as all the previous 10 combined. So it's working in that regard. But look, Boise, ASU, they got trouble. I don't think there's more than 3 or 4 teams that can actually win this thing, right? When you say to yourself, who's got the players at the line of scrimmage, because that's ultimately what football is all about, who's got the players at the line of scrimmage to win a semifinal game and win the championship game? And it's Georgia, it's Ohio State, it's Oregon, it's Notre Dame. It's not all 12. It's really just a small subset of that.
John, it's interesting watching Oregon win the Big Ten, and you see Arizona State win the Big 12. You know what I'm getting at is the Pac-12 teams this year did so well, yet why don't we have a Pac-12? I know you take this question quite a bit, but how frustrating is it to see where these teams are at right now and what could have been?
Well, last year, right? Washington and Oregon were dynamite teams. Washington played for the national championship. The Pac-12 had years where it was very good, some years where it wasn't so good. There's no Pac-12 because of management screw-ups, not because of the quality of the football product. And we're talking about years of management screw-ups and strategic mistakes. That's what set the conference on course for implosion. And they could have fixed it. It wouldn't have taken much to save it. I've said many times that they were heading down the road to the abyss, and there was like 20 off-ramps. And all they had to do was take one off-ramp, and they never did because of poor leadership by the 2 commissioners and poor leadership by the revolving door of university presidents over the course of a decade. That was the issue. It wasn't football, right? I mean, sir, USC, the fact USC wasn't very good for a decade hurt the conference's brand. There's no doubt about that. But it could have survived. I mean, if they had waited, if they, instead of making a decision in August of 2023, if they had waited till December of 2023, then they would have been in great shape because Oregon and Washington were terrific, and Colorado was raking in the ratings with Dion. They would have been able to go to the TV networks and commanded whatever price they wanted, but they didn't wait. And that, again, is part of the leadership failure.
He's Jon Wilner. You can find his byline, of course, with Mercury News, covering college football, also an AP voter, and you can find him also at KSL.com where he pitches that column in as well. And, John, well, we really love it. We love what the state of football is here in the state of Utah now with Bronco coming back to the state, Kyle saying he's coming back to the Utes, and Kalani getting extended over the weekend as well. And we appreciate you joining the program, and we're looking forward to it, man. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks a lot for having me.
There you go. Jon Wilner, everybody. Why do you always have to bring up what could have been with the Pac-12? You always make me feel like a little bit nostalgic and kind of sad. I mean, man.
It's just
about how good
it's
these
just
teams
crazy
are, man.
The impact it had on college athletics that conference failed.
And then to think where Colorado got now and where that conference
He's right.
And then Arizona State and Washington and Oregon.
Just,
holy cow.
how much of this was really necessary? How much of it was driven for the right reasons instead of the wrong?
No.
I'm not like this Pac-12, like, I'm not crying over it. But it was a good conference. In college football, where it was with geographical conferences was better. I hate an 18-team Big Ten that features Oregon and Washington playing on the Big Ten network. That makes no damn sense.
Oh, of course.
None.
No.
So what are we doing here? And then you got the situation where Indiana doesn't have a good win on their schedule, but they make the college football playoff because they don't play everybody in their conference. How can you be the champion of a conference if you only played half the teams in your conference?
Right.
That's stupid. What are we doing? Like, this whole thing is so messed up now because Fox and ESPN wanted it this way. It sucks. I don't like it, but you embrace what it is. You embrace the chaos. It's entertaining one way or the other, but I'd prefer it to be the way it was as opposed to where it is right now in 2024.
So you saw that that the athletic director for Alabama said, well, we're going to have to – well, now you force us into reconsidering what we're going to do with our non-conference schedule.
Everybody from Alabama, just take a seat, man. Just take a seat.
Well, now, of course, all you've done is
you lost at Oklahoma 21-3.
All you've done
Be quiet.
is forced us to reconsider what our non-conference schedule is going to look like. We're going to start because Mercer's not good enough. We're going to have to start. We're going to have to start scheduling Division II teams. Now.
We're going to go NAIA for our non-conference next year. Try and stop us.
Oh my goodness!
And then Kirby. How about Kirby Smart complaining that Georgia had to play road games?
And
they played 4.
I know. Listen.
Oh, you gave us the toughest road games. You had 4 of them.
And Gary Sankey is sitting
and you
right
almost
there.
blew the whole thing.
The conference commissioner's sitting right there. Like,
I know.
How you doing? Like he was,
awkward.
but he even mentioned him by name. He goes, Gary and his guys making us go on the road as much as we did, and you're like,
shut
He's
up.
standing right by you. My favorite thing of the whole weekend was when Nick Saban was sitting there, sandwiched by two former assistants in Steve Sarkisian and Kirby Smart, and I think Reese Davis asked them both a question, and they both just gave the most canned answer. And I thought Nick Saban, I don't love him all the time, but he goes, well, I'm going to be honest. I think these two guys are both BSing us right now.
Yep.
And they were sitting
Thank
right
you,
there.
Nick.
And you know what? It was two guys that he could absolutely stare in the face and go, "What? Come on, I know you. I know you, and you too, Kirby. I know you. Hey." Between the three of those guys, they make $50 million a year with all of their salaries and endorsements and all that stuff. And Nick was like, "You guys quit pretending. You're BSing here. You guys know exactly what this is about. You're all about trying to make sure that your value is high, and if your team's value is high, then your personal value is high. And it's so hard to watch these big." Are you kidding me, Alabama? You lost 3 games this year, and then you go, I can't believe you would have this college football playoff without me. I can't believe you would do this. It's a tradition every year to have us.
You did this, Alabama. You lost at Vanderbilt for the first time in 60 years.
So who are their losses to then? Vandy, Oklahoma. Who was that third one?
Oh, man.
Well, they almost lost.
They beat Georgia.
They almost lost to South Carolina.
It was Tennessee?
What? It was. It was Tennessee. It was Heupel there, and it was at Neyland Stadium.
Yeah.
Again. So, look, you played yourself, Alabama. I get it, but my goodness, on a year that you lose to a team that you hadn't lost to since 1980, that's your problem. You lose to Vanderbilt. Where did Vanderbilt even end up in the conference, by the way? I mean, I know everybody was like, "Oh, they're on. They're well on their way."
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th.
12th in the conference.
Tied for 10th.
Tied for 10th. So
11th. Tied for 11th.
They
finished with the same conference record as Arkansas, 3-5.
And by the way, Oklahoma finished below them. And so
right.
that's where you're at. You didn't just lose to a couple teams. You talk about BYU losing to Kansas, right? You can make everyone knows that Kansas would probably blow the doors off of Vanderbilt. And they would probably give a run at Oklahoma too. I mean,
we didn't have enough time to go into it with John, and I wanted to, but the Big Ten got off easy this year. Penn State didn't play anybody.
Indiana didn't play.
The teams they played, they got beat. Indiana didn't play anybody until they played Ohio State, and they got the doors blown off. What did those teams prove?
Here's the thing: with
the Big Ten is top heavy.
Georgia winning in the SEC championship game in overtime, of course, because of course. And
that
so,
was a horrible game, by the way.
It was bad.
Sloppy,
and I will tell you
not
right
good
now,
play.
too, those guys are going to be on track to freaking play one another again. They'll be Texas and Georgia 3.0.
Right. Why do we need that?
Because
is this baseball? We need a 3-game series?
No.
What is this?
I'm trying to think if there was ever a time in college football that I mean, I'm sure with how successful the SEC has been and the Big Ten has been over the years, has there ever been a team that played each other in the regular season, then played each other in the conference championship game, and then played each other in the national championship or some version of that? So you're looking at two, and look, Greg Sankey's over there sharpening his sword, ready to strike when that ends up being a matchup between Georgia and Texas, and everybody goes, told you the SEC's the power.
Yeah.
It
just means more.
By the way, how many years did it take for Texas to win the Big 12? Or how many years did they go without winning the Big 12?
They just walk into the SEC and win the league. Well, I guess they came up one game short, but
well, yeah, but I mean but that's what I'm saying.
They ran the league for the most of the year.
But they're in the college football playoff, and they
Oklahoma,
have as good a chance as
Oklahoma
anybody.
beat Alabama 21-3 on their field. Like, there's not that big of a gap. It's all been perception.
And then
It
Notre
is
Dame
all perception.
And then Notre Dame, who lost to, checks notes, one of the teams playing in the Potato Bowl.
And they're lucky they got to the
And
Potato
they're lucky
Bowl.
they got into the Potato Bowl. I think Hans and
Notre
Scotty
Dame lost to Northern Illinois.
Are Hans and Scotty calling that
You're
game,
in
by the way?
playoff.
I think they're calling the Potato Bowl this year.
Oh, are
Both
they?
those guys. Yeah.
Both together? Good
Yeah.
for them. That's good.
Northern Illinois and who's the other one? Annapolis. Do you know who the other one is? I'm trying to figure
I
out.
got it here.
I'm trying to figure out who the Potato Bowl is this year. But I know for
It's
sure.
Northern Illinois and Fresno
State. Come on. Is Fresno State going to be the Pac-12?
Yes.
Pac-12 team,
If
Fresno State.
If you're on the West
versus-
Coast and your name ends with state,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
in.
Yeah. And give me a direct.
Idaho State, you're next.
Give me a directional Illinois and give me a future Pac-12 school. You got yourself a Potato Bowl.
Just get Montana State and Idaho State, and you get the whole West Coast.
Alabama. Greg Sankey's like, so our guy. So Notre Dame gets in, and they just lost to a Pac-12 team. Well, a future Pac-12 team. A team playing in the Potato Bowl.
Right.
And then we're over here suffering because we lost to historic Oklahoma. It's like, get out of here.
Historic.
Get out of here. All right, let's take a break. Well, no, we're not taking a break yet. I thought we were way over time. I just said Wilner had to get out early with us. But I think about all the different things that this 12-team playoff has now given us. And I was actually really surprised that they blitzed Alabama. But it was all and I don't like Dabo Swinney. But he did us all a favor.
Yeah.
And I know a 3-loss Clemson team is not sexy, but they won their conference. They won the ACC. Speaking of which, isn't that funny that the 13-0 ACC champion last year didn't get into the college football playoff, and then the 3-loss, totally forgettable Clemson team in 2024 gets into the college football playoff?
But isn't that kind of how the March Madness works?
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh, absolutely. You go, look, show up at your conference tournament, man.
We saw a UCLA team go to the first 4 in Dayton, and they wind up going to
Final
the
4
semifinals against
Yeah.
Gonzaga. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this can happen. What's the great thing about the way things are set up now, and Wilner made the point, is there's access now. And that's all that I ask. You know, I'm whining and complaining, and I'm thrilled that Alabama got shut out. And we can talk about BYU getting screwed a little bit. But the bottom line is BYU could have won their way in. They now have access where they didn't before. And that's why the 12-team playoff is great. It's better. It's not perfect, but the 12-team playoff is better.
Well, it's not just better. It's also it just is much more fun. I mean, and Wilner nailed it too, where it's like, how is it that the first team that the number one team in the country, the only undefeated team in the entire land, in Oregon, sits around and then plays in their first college football playoff game, is going to be in a bowl game after a team who's got some momentum maybe from the week before comes in. I don't know if the perfect answer is to say let Oregon play, that number 1 seed and number 1 through 4 play at home on that first weekend of those playoff games. I think they're going to try to. I think they're going to try to refine how this thing works. But in the end, a 12-team playoff is exactly what we begged for all these years, right? This is exactly what we wanted, and we've gotten it. And we knew that what was going to come with it was a bunch of of complaining and moaning about what exactly your team did to deserve to be there, or what these other teams did not do to not deserve to be there, or whatever it might be. It's all part of the new world of college football. And by the way, when they extend it to 14 teams, you think it's going to improve? Absolutely.
You know what it's going to improve? The pocketbooks of the SEC and the Big Ten.
and by the way, those first 2 teams out, Alabama and Miami, they would be in.
Right.
And you know what would happen? Teams like BYU, teams like fill in the blank with the other 2 lost teams and other P4 conferences would all look around and go, so why'd they get in and not us?
Exactly.
Right? I thought it was interesting that Jon Wilner tried to make a case for BYU. I see the logic there.
Yeah.
But, like, from the eye test, I mean, we cover this team very, very closely. It just doesn't feel like a college football playoff team.
They did not look
right,
good at the end of the season.
Right.
But if you put blind resumes on the wall, Alex.
Yeah, and go Team A, Team B.
BYU might come up top 12.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which,
and part of that
it's not just us saying that. Jon Wilner sees it, and Wilner's, trust me, no BYU honk.
Yeah.
Not by a mile.
No. And but part of it is that these teams look around at each other and they go, "Oh, thank heavens we were in the early." Notre Dame's like, "Thank heavens we were in the early rankings and that we lost early." That was Notre Dame's best thing. They lost to the worst loss on the entire board for all those college football playoff teams across this thing, without looking at everybody's losses. I will just tell you that Northern Illinois loss that Notre Dame took was the absolute worst on the board.
No doubt.
And yet it happened so long ago, and they were already ranked high enough in the preseason that they were able to claw their way back in with a bunch of bad, wins, beating your Navies and your really, really good Lincoln Riley USC teams and Stanford. My heavens, don't forget Stanford.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
So
right.
I look at Notre Dame and I just think, I don't know if I buy Wilner saying that Notre Dame is one of those teams that should be locked up for the possible trip to the national championship.
No. And let me say this. Notre Dame got the 7 seed. They not only did they luck out with the Northern Illinois thing, they're getting Indiana. What if they got Ohio State or Tennessee?
Why not?
The committee did them such a favor.
Oh, yeah.
They're hosting Indiana. Come on.
I know they said that it was an easier path a lot of times for that 5 seed because they're playing that 12 seed. Who's Texas playing then? Clemson.
Sure.
And then so Texas is going to play Clemson, and then the winner of Texas and Clemson would go on to play that winner of Oregon and. Yeah, they'd play Oregon, right?
Yeah.
So that's crazy. All right.
It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. With complete coverage of the Utah Hockey Club, this is Cole Bagley of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex, Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen, the team back together again after a long 2-day hiatus. It did feel like a lot longer just because of how much stuff happened. I mean, basically a lifetime of news.
I came here today. I felt I had to have a week's worth of stuff I wanted to talk about. It was crazy.
We were kind of like, hey, look, that Thursday and Friday we should be fine. There's not going to be a lot necessarily going on. I mean, you're going to get a couple. We'll have some previews from conference championships. Blah blah blah.
It's early December. BYU's not in the Big 12 championship.
This is when people in our industry kind of take a little bit of some time off here and there because it's like, hey. You're kind of between bowl games and blah blah. Doesn't matter. Everything blew up on Friday, and it was crazy. And then on top of all of it, on Friday we chatted with, of course, Bear Torney, the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club. We were asking him about winning that 100th game, which of course he downplayed and said, "I don't really think about that stuff." But he just so happened to win 100 and win 101 over the past 2 days, a back-to-back East Coast swing. By the way, I want to mention that you can nominate that youth sports volunteer that for the Hercules Hero of the Week award. The Hercules Hero of the Week is brought to you by Hercules Credit Union. We honor the youth sports volunteers in your neighborhood. If it's that team mom, if it's that softball coach that goes the extra mile with your kids. There's so many other parents and coaches and so many adults that are doing such good in your neighborhood. Somebody asked, how do you do this with all your boys playing football? I go, Oh, I don't. Somebody else does. And you know what? Those are the people that we really respect because they help mold our youth. And
it takes a village.
It really does. And so we appreciate their additions to this with the Hercules Hero of the Week. Just go to KSLSports.com/contest, and they can win every week a prize from Hercules Credit Union via a gift card. And then Beehive Meals also pitches in $200. So that's an awesome program. Joining us on the program right now, he's Cole Bagley, Utah Hockey Club insider for KSL Sports. The East Coast back-to-back, we thought maybe it would just been a difficult trip, but instead they put up 9 goals in 2 games, and more importantly, they get 4 points out of those 2 games. Cole, that was an awesome stretch.
Yeah, this was a big road trip for the Utah Hockey Club, and their efforts are being rewarded. Talking to some of the guys over the last couple of days and listening in on some of their availabilities, they know that they're playing good hockey, and everything's trending in the right direction. They were getting really solid contributions from some of their young guys and regulars. They've now had a couple veterans step up to the plate that hadn't been over the last couple of weeks, and they're getting really good goaltending between the pipes from both Vejmelka and Stauber. So it's kind of all starting to come together a little bit more for this Utah Hockey Club.
Yeah, to your point, Cole, this is an interesting stat. Utah's goal differential since November 23rd is plus 14. That's the best in the NHL in that span, and Utah is 5-2-1 over those last 8 games. You mentioned some points there, but overall, just the last 8 games, this team's playing really good hockey right now.
Yeah, they've over their last 6, they've gone 4-1-1. They've outscored their opponents 22-12. I believe over the last six or 7 games, they're only allowing about 2 goals a game. Every game leading up to that, 20 or 18 or 19 or so, they're allowing 3.3. So they've seen 1.3 goals against drop, which is huge. And the goaltenders are just putting this team in a better spot to win hockey games. Like I said, they're getting much better contributions from guys like Schmaltz, and Carcone's got a couple goals now. Stenlund had a big one yesterday. Valimaki finally got on the scoring sheet. Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther are emerging into stars. And so, like I said, everything's kind of coming together. We'll see, if they can keep this going. That's been the theme of the year for the Utah Hockey Club, is a lot of ups and downs. But, if they could get, 4 or 5 wins in a row, that would set them up nicely. They're kind of back into that playoff contention. It's still pretty early, but they're in the 5th in the Central Division, only 2 points behind 4th. So, yeah, if they can keep cruising right along here, stack up a few more wins over the next week or two, they could be in a really good position come the new year.
The team hadn't gone back-to-back wins since the early part of the season, that first week of the season, actually, when they started things off 3-0-1. But what's been the biggest difference, do you think? I mean, it's one thing to get some confidence, but where have the biggest contributions come from when guys are showing up and getting these wins? I mean, the Sabres and the Flyers are both right there, kind of in that same point. Obviously they're in a different division and they're out east, but they are. That's a 12-12 team. That's another 11-10, 11-12 team. They're all kind of hovering around that 500, and Utah goes out there on their ice and they win. What's been the biggest change for this team to be able to get this confidence right now?
Yeah, I mean, the Utah Hockey Club has been really close for most of the season to being a pretty good squad. They've had flashes of greatness, and there's a lot of potential on this team. I mean, like I mentioned, Dylan Guenther, Logan Cooley are very good players. They're getting a lot of contributions from guys like Michael Kesselring. Clayton Keller is doing his thing. He's not scoring quite as much as I'm sure he wants to, but he's still leading the team in points. Sergachev's been very good, and so they've been just right there. But what they've been missing was, first of all, consistent goaltending. Now they're getting that. Stauber, in the 2 games that Stauber's played, he's got .962 save percentage. That is elite. It's a small sample size, but that's very, very good. So when a goaltender is saving that many shots and is averaging only a goal or 2 against, you're going to be in a really good spot to win hockey games. And then of course it is Vejmelka's net first and foremost, and he's been very good. So the goaltending is hockey is a team game, but when you have a really good goaltender, it can take you really, really far. And generally, the team that wins the Stanley Cup has the best goaltender in the tournament. So, that's a big positive for Utah as of right now. Second of all, they're getting a collective effort over the last 4 or 5 games. It's not just one or two players playing well. It's really everybody, contributing. I mean, they scored 9 goals over the course of 2 games. They had a bunch of different goal scorers, Logan Cooley, Carcone, Stenlund, Keller got in on one of those, and Kesselring. Like, guys are stepping up all over the place. You're getting contributions from some of the guys that were quiet, like Nick Schmaltz. He scored 3 or 4 goals over the last couple games when it took him 25 games to finally, light the lamp and stuff like that. So it's a complete effort. For most of the season, they weren't getting 100% from everybody, but over these last few games, they're finally kind of getting that consistent play from everybody on the roster. And if they can do that along with the goaltending, I really think that this team is still, has a good chance to make the playoffs.
Utah will host Minnesota on Tuesday. They're at Colorado on Thursday, 2 big division games, and then wrap up the week Saturday at San Jose. Minnesota's interesting because last year they didn't make the playoffs. Now I'm looking at the standings. They're suddenly tied with that team we couldn't talk enough about, the Winnipeg Jets, atop the division. What's Minnesota doing, and how have they been able to, I don't want to say turn things around, they've been good all season, but vault ahead of everybody in the division?
They're getting elite goaltending. They, to my knowledge, they've got the fewest goals against in the league at about 65. So it is tough to score against the Minnesota Wild. They're not necessarily scoring at an elite level. They've got 86, but it's the differential, right? Plus 21 in terms of goals. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the majority of the league is as shocked as we are in terms of the Wild. They were not a good team last season. And suddenly, as of right now, they're kind of the team to beat. I believe they have the most points in the National Hockey League. Right now, they're tied with the Winnipeg Jets at 40 and the Washington Capitals. They've just been going on a tear, and it's going to take a special effort. They do not give up very many goals, so Utah's going to have to come out guns blazing and follow what they've done over the last 2 games.
Bear tried to pretend like the 100th win in his career is not that big of a deal, but how lucky is Utah and the hockey club to have Coach and kind of watch him also building up his career and finding ways to win and turn a corner from the coaching perspective? How big of a deal is it to have Canada's national team head coach as the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club?
Yeah, it's great. I think Coach was sincere when he said that, yeah, it's a nice milestone, but in the grand scheme of things, it just doesn't really matter because he's a team first guy. It's not about him, and that's kind of the culture of the Utah Hockey Club that he's been able to instill. He's also very good with young players, which has been a really good fit for this team over the last couple of seasons. I mean, I think that's why you're seeing kind of the development and emergence of Cooley and Gunther. Is you've got, a coach like Bear who knows how to develop these guys, who knows how to, be even keeled and, he's a straight shooter, but at the same time, he's not going to, be too harsh on him. And so, he's been a very good fit. He's definitely helping this team continue to develop, and to see win 100 is great. I think my favorite thing about it though is, he said he was appreciative of it, and he hopes that the next 100 wins come a lot quicker than they did this first time around.
Cole Bagley, our Utah Hockey Club insider for KSL Sports. Read his byline there. Follow him on X and on all the socials to be able to get your updates for this Utah Hockey Club team. And you can understand a little bit more about this game that is come to Salt Lake and let us all on fire here. Cole, thanks for hanging out with us, man. We'll chat with you again next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Cole showing up, all brought to you by the folks at Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. It's nice when they're like, there was that moment when they were struggling. I think they were 9 and 11, and we were like all looking at each other going, oh boy. Or it was like 8 and 10, and they had dropped a few in a row, and we were all looking around going, and
remember the Washington game?
Yeah, and
that came after they blew it against Vegas. You're kind of like, the wheels coming off this group?
So I did a thing where I went back, and it was actually bad for my mental health, I feel like, for this team, because I went back and looked at where they were last year as a club, and they were actually a game ahead of that team. And now they're just ahead of where they were last year in terms of wins and losses. I know there's a lot of season still left. And, at this point last year, they hadn't gotten into their 14-game losing streak yet. So right. I think that, there's still a lot out there that, as long as a team can avoid something like that, they're going to be in that playoff conversation. And how fun would it be to be in that conversation, to be getting into the playoffs their first year here in Utah? But at the very least, you see the development there. You see a lot of these guys. You see that potential they have, and they're starting to live up to a lot of it and not just kind of go, I thought they're supposed to be a little bit better than it. Even their backup goalie and even their backup goalie, like they're showing up and they're playing. These guys are really, really good. All right. By the way, every time we talk about the Utah Hockey Club and all of our updates that you're going to get throughout the season here, all brought to you by ReadyWise. Be wise, be ready. Your trusted partner in emergency preparedness is ReadyWise. Go check it out, ReadyWise.com. All right. We'll come back. We've got more to go right around the corner. We're going to chat with Corey Watson, of course, as well. We've got a couple of people who it currently sucks to be you, coming up next. 97.5 EKSL Sports Zone.
Basking in the sports misfortune of others to help make you feel just a little bit better about yourself. As JJ and Alex present,
yes, we got beat. We got beat badly.
It sucks to be you.
Welcome back, everybody. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex, Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen, thanks for being with us. We've been at Jon Watson Chevrolet all afternoon. We're going to be here all the way through the end of the program today. And, of course, they're going to be having their 20th edition of the Jon Watson Chevrolet and KSL Sports Zone Northern Utah High School Football Player of the Week awards that are happening right here. They got the zone sweatshirts all set up. I heard tell there's going to be – I'm assuming when we get Corey on, we'll ask him, but I'm assuming it's going to be a pizza situation. And I don't know if we need to stick around a little bit longer for all that, or if there's going to be something that, I don't know. Corey, let me know. Can we get a slice, or what's going on here?
Well, let me tell you a secret. We get a lot of good press out of the party.
Oh, yeah.
We get way more press out of the pizza.
Oh, you do?
So just a little plug for Ogden Pizzeria.
Oh,
these guys are the real deal.
See, that's the thing. It's the local
It's not,
pizzeria.
no offense to the chains out there, but this is not chain pizza.
No,
this is local.
This is the real deal. And so it's funny. The parents come up after the party and like, you guys are so great, and thanks for doing this.
Pizza?
Where'd the pizza come from? It's good. So I want you to stick around for a few minutes.
Okay.
You called
absolutely.
it a pizza situation. That's the kind of situation that I want to find myself
I want to
in.
be in a pizza situation for the rest of my life.
Actually, when I was in high school, I used to drive this white Camaro that's sitting over there.
Yeah.
Me and my buddies, because we didn't really know how to hang out with chicks, we would go to pizzeria, get a pizza, and sit in that car and eat pizza. It was the best days of my life.
Well, listen, that's a lot different than the situations you're talking about that are happening in the back of the cars that people like to talk to you about.
I know, the stories are bizarre.
I'm sure there was pizza involved in those too.
Hey, there's a lot of nostalgia in cars, man.
Yes.
I'm telling you, people do. You think about like your first car, and even though mine was like big hunk of junk.
Volkswagen Bug, 1968.
Look at you. See?
Well, let me give you a car pitch here. If you're going to want some great life stories, come get a new Chevrolet.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Because, it's going to make your whole life.
I definitely had my first kiss in my truck in high school. He wasn't expecting it either. He was just I'm just
I was expecting that from you.
You guys should have just had a pizza situation instead.
I know.
Yeah. You would have been better off just to have a pizza.
All right, here's the deal. Sucks to be you. It does not suck to be you if you're eating tonight here at the Jon Watson Chevrolet dealership as we honor the high school players. But it does suck to be. Boy, it's a real shame. It's a real shame to say too. I hate to bring it up, but it does suck to be Alabama today. Oh, you guys didn't get in the college football playoff? What happened?
Here, look, Alex.
What happened? You guys.
You can't see it on the radio, but this is me taking another sip of Crimson Tide tears.
Oh, look at that.
Oh.
They're so tasty. It sucks to be the Crimson
so
Tide.
Good, so refreshing.
You know what? Congrats to the College Football Playoff Committee. They needed a little bit of help to kind of hide it and to kind of pretend. But I'll tell you what they did. But I'll tell you what they didn't do was they watched that whole situation happen, and then they were like, this is a huge deal for us to be able to take these guys out of it, and taking them out of the situation was a hard situation for Alabama, but it wasn't hard for me. to be able to watch.
It took some stones for them to leave Alabama out.
Well, we just assumed that where everything was set up, they were going to have to do it. They were going to have to jump in and be a part of it. And so, no, instead they slided them. All right. Who else does it suck to be? Oh, it sucks to be the Mets bank account.
Oh.
Is this going to be a Bobby Bonilla situation where they're going to be – although they'll probably have to pay 4 different generations of Juan Soto's family.
Juan Soto's too good for this to be a Bobby Bonilla situation. In his prime. Look, this is a huge deal for the Mets. They beat everybody else. If you're a Mets fan, you're ecstatic today. Your team stepped up and signed the best hitter in the baseball.
Oh, but listen.
You stole him from the Yankees.
Yeah, and listen.
I get the bank account thing, but this is a big day for Mets fans.
That price is worth it. That price is worth it, right? Where you go $765 million, but you beat the Yankees.
Well, it's
today.
only worth it if you can also go sign some pitching too.
But
and
today,
plus, who are you going to put around him?
Oh, I don't know.
They got dudes.
Who knows how that works? It's whoever you're going to have to put on the roster to lose to the Dodgers in the
right
in the NLCS. Okay. And then it sucks to be the Chargers today, who got the doink from the third-string kicker from the Chiefs. At this point,
how are the Chiefs getting away with this?
I'll tell you why. Because it's all scripted, JJ. Because now it's official. The NFL is an absolute conspiracy. It's fake. It's a fake league. That's a fake team. It was AI generated last night. I didn't even watch real people in a real stadium. That stadium doesn't exist. I'm convinced that I've just been fed
This is all a simulation?
Absolute garbage, absolute not real. Doinking off of the post was, I cannot even believe that's how it ended last night. My sons and I were just like laughing our butts off, but like also hitting the floor like, no, they can't keep getting away with this. They can't keep getting away with this. But there you go. The Chargers end up for the 100th year in a row not winning the
Chiefs
AFC
have won 8
West.
straight AFC West titles? Is it 9?
Or it was like 11. It was something stupid. It was something really dumb. Maybe Hatch knows. Hatch, how many divisions or division titles have the Chiefs now won in a row? Is it 9? Is it 9? Yeah. Well, ridiculous.
As a Broncos fan, I want to puke right now.
I know. Speaking of, hey, but you guys are doing okay. Oh,
I was doing okay until you brought that up.
Well, I was just saying that you should feel good about it because it's a fake team. It's a conspiracy. I don't think Andy Reid exists. I think he's a hologram. I think the real Andy Reid hasn't been around for decades. I think that
the real Andy Reid's eating cheeseburgers while the hologram's coaching. Is that what you're telling me?
Yelling out Bundle-a-Rooski on the
Bundle-a-Rooski.
Bundle-a-Rooski. All right.
It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.